The earliest explorers wondered what was beyond. What was beyond the mountains, beyond the sea, beyond the horizon? They built their own tools to find out. Collectively, they charted the earth to share what they found. They found the earth's riches. Among them, one of the greatest treasures of all, minerals, gold, silver, diamonds, and oil. Oil seeping up from some unknown place, oozing energy that transformed the world. Oil was easy to find at first. Entrepreneurs looked for a hilltop or a bend in the river that promised untold wealth below. But as dry holes dried up exploration budgets, companies looked for better ways to find the treasures of oil and gas. They looked to scientists to help them, very smart scientists. Scientists who were a hybrid of many disciplines: geology, physics, electrical engineering, computer science, mathematics, statistics, probability. Geophysicists began to study the interactions of massive forces to discern the significant from the insignificant, to see the unseeable. These modern explorers built their own tools to see what lay beyond the surface, in the invisible realms of the earth and the seas. Collectively, geophysicists began charting the underworld, and in 1930, a few of them came together to form the Society of Exploration Geophysicists, and they began to share their individual knowledge, ideas, and interpretations with each other. Today, the SEG curates more than 80 years' worth of knowledge. Its 32,000 members worldwide contribute to its knowledge bank. They all have access to over 40,000 technical papers and articles, hundreds of reference materials in print and ebook format, over 140 lecture tours, multiple virtual courses and on-demand webinars, over 50 professional courses, a geophysical wiki, and many meetings and events around the world. The SEG knowledge assets increase exponentially each year, making the Society the single most important source of shared knowledge in the industry. Thanks to you and your 32,000 colleagues, the SEG exists to further the science of geophysics, the collective understanding of our Earth, and the ultimate welfare of all the citizens of our planet.
Ladies and gentlemen, the 2013 SEG Annual Meeting General Chairman, Dr. M. Lee Bell of Geokinetics. Dr. Bell began his career at Mobil. Later, he started a data processing company, Entropic Geophysical, before a merger with GeoSignal in Houston. Bell became president of the GeoSignal division, then VP of Technology for Western. He became the chief geophysicist of Geokinetics in 2007. Dr. Bell has served the SEG in a number of capacities, most recently on the board of SEG Global, Inc., and the general chairman of the steering committee for the 2013 SEG Annual Meeting. Please welcome General Chairman Dr. Lee Bell.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Society of Exploration Geophysicists 83rd Annual Meeting and International Exposition. The SEG staff and steering committee have worked very diligently to put this together, and we hope all of you enjoy the fruits of our labor. A few highlights. This will be the largest technical session in history. It will be the second largest exposition. This is the second year for e-posters, and we have a new feature, on-demand posters. Please check them out on the third floor. There's an SEG app for iPhones, iPads, Androids, and BlackBerry devices to help you find your way around the exposition hall. You can see what papers are being presented and where, and you can access the abstracts from the app. For the first time, the app includes exhibitor presentations and schedules. We have a very exciting presentation for the Applied Science Education Program with Dr. Christina Massel-Simons describing her experience with Deep Sea Challenge Expedition to the high school students from the Houston area. Please take note of the various luncheons on Tuesday and Wednesday and the international reception Tuesday afternoon featuring Africa. And finally, don't forget to buy a ticket for the Bayou Bash and at the House of Blues for Wednesday night. Now, I'd like to recognize the steering committee members. There's Leon Thompson, who is vice chairman, James Schulke, our technical program chairman, Gary Kraus, sponsorship chairman, Wolf Massell, applied science education program chairman, Matthew Podden, exhibitor chairman, John Parrish, opening ceremony chairman, Rocky DeTomo, the global chairman, Sophia Campbell, our volunteer coordinator chairman, Susan Bell, spouse program chairman, and Clive Hurst, our golf tournament chairman. And then finally, I'd like to conclude by reading welcoming letters from Texas Governor Perry and Houston Mayor Parker. I'll just read excerpts from each of these letters for the sake of time, but we'll publish them in their entirety in the annual report. From Governor Perry, I would like to commend the SEG for its charitable foundation to promote innovative programs and activities and provide students with the resources they need for a successful career in the field of geophysics. I hope you will take this opportunity to renew old friendships, make new acquaintances, and network with experts who have gathered here from all over the world to promote the science of geophysics and the education of geophysicists. And while you're here, I hope you will find time to enjoy Houston's wide array of professional sports, fine dining, and cultural venues. First Lady Anita Perry joins me in sending best wishes for you for a successful meeting and exposition. From Mayor Parker, it is a pleasure for Houston to host this conference for the 11th time. On behalf of the City of Houston, we express welcome and appreciate the Society of Exploration Geophysicists for its continued efforts to protect the environment, generate interest in the sciences, educate future generations, and create and sustain business in Texas. Thank you.
The 2013 SEG President, Dr. David Monk of Apache Corporation. For the last 30 years, Dr. David Monk's career in geophysics has involved working in most aspects of seismic acquisition and processing for seismic contractors, consulting, and working for an oil company. His career started with SSL in Nigeria. In 2000, he joined Apache, where he now acts as Director of Geophysics. Dr. Monk has been a member of SEG since 1984. He served as SEG Vice President in 2006, Technical Program Chairman in 2005, Chairman of SEG Global at its formation in 2008, and received life membership from SEG in 2009. Please welcome to the stage SEG President Dr. David Monk.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. It is typical that the President of the Society give an annual report at this event or at the Council meeting yesterday. And I gave a brief report at the Council meeting yesterday. But this morning I'm going to give a brief presentation about change and how the Society is changing and how it has changed over the last decade. During my presidency, I've been lucky enough to be invited to give keynote presentations on a number of occasions around the world, and I've talked about changing technology. I'm not going to talk about technology this morning, but enabling exchange of geophysical technology information is part of what the SEG is about, giving this information to people. But what I want to talk about this morning is the SEG and how it's changing. I like to compare the change in technology and the rate of change to the rate of change of things inside the Society as well. One of the slides that I use in my changing technology presentation is this one. It shows how things change in a linear scale in a linear fashion on a log scale. Things double every 10 years or every 5 years. This shows the number of seismic channels on a land crew, and it looks as though we're going to be at 1 million channels in not too many years. So things change on a log scale. So some things might be expected to double every 10 years, every decade, but some things don't change at all. So I want to look back 10 years and show you the presidential address from 10 years ago. And some things don't change. This address was actually given by somebody else who was president of the SEG, who also worked for Apache Corporation, the same company that I work for. He talked about technology change as well. And as one of his slides, he showed that technology changes at a very rapid pace. He looked at the increase in compute capability, changing from 1976 to 2004, and that change was quite dramatic, and it hasn't changed. The rate of change hasn't changed. We're looking at incredible capability in compute technology today. He also illustrated that some things don't change over the years, and as part of that illustration, he showed this. The change in shape and form of a particular car, the Corvette. And I'd like to say that hasn't changed much either. Today, the shape and form of the Corvette hasn't changed much at all. And in some ways, the society mimics both of those. In some aspects, we have not changed at all, and in some aspects, we'd expect things to change quite rapidly. So we haven't changed in as much as we were formed back in 1930, and the core of the society is still the same. We're dedicated to enabling the exchange of geophysical knowledge between our members and between other people outside of the society as well. 10 years ago, at the international exhibit that we have, the same as the meeting that we have today, the society had grown to about 18,000 members, and we had nearly 50 staff in Tulsa. Today, the society is about 32,000 members, so it has about doubled. We have 138 countries represented, 53 sections around the world, 287 student chapters, and a lot more people in the society. A lot more young professionals, and a lot more near-surface practitioners. Today, about 25% of our membership express particular interest in near-surface geophysics. We've also got a very growing and vibrant women's professional network, and the number of volunteers involved in the society has grown enormously. 10 years ago, we looked at being the largest meeting of geoscientists around the world. That's still true. Last year, we had 8,400 attendees at this meeting in Las Vegas. And I'm happy to say that as of 10 minutes ago, there were over 9,400 people registered for the meeting here today. And I'm very optimistic that we will break 10,000 and perhaps even 11,000 people registered at the meeting here. It is, as Lee said, the largest exhibit that we've ever put on. And the society has doubled, as I said, over the last 10 years. Our membership is growing consistently, but it's growing and becoming more diverse. 10 years ago, we were a society dominated by a membership in the States, and now that is no longer true. About 40% of our membership is here in the US, but the rest of our members live overseas. And if you look downstairs on the exhibit floor, you'll see that many of the exhibitors come from overseas, particularly from China. SEG opened an office in China 5 years ago, and that has spurred our representation in China and Chinese involvement in the society. I made a presidential award yesterday for one of our Chinese members who's been particularly active promoting the society in China. We also have offices in Dubai, and in the future perhaps we're going to spread our wings a little bit further as well, trying to respond to this changing membership, this global membership. We're also seeing, as I said, a growing emphasis on near surface. This is a slide from the front page of the SEG website. It illustrates one of the near-surface lecturers that did a tour of China. I was hopeful today that we would be able to announce a stronger relationship with a sister society involved in near-surface, but I can tell you that on Friday, the board of your executive met, and we have decided to establish a near-surface subsidiary to the SEG because of this growing emphasis on near-surface geophysics. You can't spread your wings around the world on your own. And over the last year, we've formed much closer alliances with many of our sister societies. Some of you will have received copies of our new journal, the Interpretation Journal, recently launched in conjunction with the AAPG. And we've formed stronger links with the EAG and other societies over the year. Later this year, we will be holding a joint workshop for the first time with EAG, this one held by them, but the following year hosted by the SEG. This is a copy of the most recent Interpretation Journal that I just mentioned, and I hope many of you are able to enjoy that. You should have received it if you're a member of the SEG. But the change is continuing. there's more change coming. Over the weekend, I was lucky enough to spend some time with some of the student members from all over the world, and this illustrates that the change is continuing, because if you look here, it looks as though only about 25% of our student members are from the US. And if that continues into our active membership, you'll see that we're becoming a much more worldwide society. Student chapters reflect that. There's only 20% of our student chapters here in the US, despite the very large growth in number of student chapters of the SEG. So the society is growing and we're changing. Our demographics are changing. We need to ensure that we have the resources and capability in place to keep and sustain the business that we've established from anywhere, by anyone. We need to modernize and stay connected. Even as we diversify around the world, we need to have a central organization which is strong and connected. And it's for that reason that last week I was in part laying the foundation for the new SEG headquarters, which will be in Tulsa. This is a building that will help us centralize and spread around the world. I showed this architectural rendering at the council meeting the other day, but this morning I'm going to show you something else. This is actually a small video which renders some of the ideas we have and what the building will look like when it's completed, and the completion will be in December next year. Not only will that be the new home for the SEG, moving forward, the rental from the other parts of that property are going to be a significant revenue to the SEG and allow us to continue some of these programs that we've started. So final thoughts, we are going to diversify and continue to grow. We're going to be, we hope, the place to go for information about geophysics from anywhere, by anyone. Change like this takes time, and I owe a lot of thanks over the last year to the members of my board, who I briefly want to introduce now. If you're present in the audience this morning, please stand up so that you can be recognized. Alfred, Edith, Tomas, who was the editor for the SEG, Mike Grawl, who is chair of the council and will continue in that role, Dennis Cook, Gary Servos, who is our treasurer and who will also continue in that role, Rick Miller, Peter Annan, Samir Abelmoti, Elsa, Bob Hardage, who is the past president, and I owe a lot to him, both as a mentor in this position and also for the legacy that he left me with. I hope to leave something for Don, who will be your next president, and Chris Crone. Please could I ask you, if you're there, to stand up and be recognized. Thank you very much for your service. I hand over to a new group, which will be led by Don Steeples. And there are some new faces in there. As part of our constitutional change, many of the people on the board this year will remain and stay on the board. But there are some new faces. Chris Liner will come in as the new president-elect, Rob Stewart as vice president, Everett Slob as the new editor, and then directors at large, Gustavo Carstens and Guillaume Camois. Thank you for volunteering to serve, and I'm sure you will serve us well. Thank you.
We are pleased to welcome Chairman Barry Smitherman of the Texas Railroad Commission to the SEG annual meeting. Chairman Smitherman was appointed to the Railroad Commission of Texas in July 2011 and was elected chairman by his colleagues in November. He is a fourth-generation Texan with a unique blend of private and public sector experience. Since joining the Railroad Commission, more drilling permits have been issued than any recent 12-month period, and permit turnaround times have been dramatically reduced. Please welcome to the stage Chairman Smitherman.
morning. Welcome to Houston, my hometown, and the past, present, and I predict continued future energy capital of the world. These are incredibly exciting times to be in the exploration business. What is happening in exploration and production around the world, but particularly here in Texas, is changing the world. And with that, we see decentralization of production and the paradigm of a relatively small number of global producers providing the world's appetite for liquid fuel, changing to where we see production opportunities throughout the world. We want you to have a great time while you're here in Houston, and I want to tell you a little bit about what is happening in our great state so that it is perhaps a precursor of what might happen in your country or in other places around the world. Now, we like to say that there are two kinds of people, those that were born in Texas and those who got here as quickly as they could. Texas is a unique place with a long legacy of oil and gas production. You can see that we continue to have tremendous production happening in the Lone Star State. There are relatively few places in our state where we are not producing oil and gas. Some of these areas are long established production basins like the Permian Basin out in Midland, the East Texas oil fields up in the northeast part of our state, and others are relatively new. The Barnett Shale up in the Fort Worth area, where we really began horizontal drilling and hydraulic fracturing techniques for the recovery of gas, and sort of the new kid on the block, if you will, the Eagle Ford Shale down in South Texas, which is extremely unique because of its combination of dry gas, natural gas liquids, and petroleum crude. These opportunities are continuing to expand around our state as the use of new technologies for finding oil, for drilling, for producing, getting it to the ground, continue to expand. Really, we're looking at a relatively boundless supply of oil and gas because technology continues to improve. We have a lot of pipe in our state, and to get oil and natural gas from where it's brought to the wellhead to where it's either consumed or refined, or in the case of natural gas, burned to make electricity, requires a lot of pipe. Every county in Texas has pipeline running through it, and pipeline infrastructure is a critical component to having a robust oil and gas infrastructure, robust production. We need to build additional pipe as we continue to find oil in the Permian Basin and bring that in to about 20 miles or 50 miles east of here, Baytown and Port Arthur, respectively. We have to build a lot of pipe because this is a very big state. Continued production down in the Eagle Ford provides us an opportunity to pipe product to the coast, to get it to the water in Corpus Christi or Freeport, and then put it into international commerce. Drilling permit activity is a great leading indicator of what production activity will be. This year in 2013, we believe we'll set a record for the most number of permits issued, with the exception of 2008, and then going all the way back to 1985, the last time that we saw this amount of incredible production activity in our state. 2008 was a little bit of an anomaly because natural gas prices were extremely high. And so the drill bit was searching for natural gas. But with the collapse of natural gas prices, because we found so much natural gas, we saw drilling activity in 2009 and 2010 sink dramatically until we began to apply these techniques in searching for liquid. Now, most of what we see happening in our state is a search for crude and natural gas liquids. We'll probably end up issuing somewhere around 25,000 permits this year in Texas. At the same time, we've been able to dramatically reduce our permit turnaround times from about 5 months to about 5 days. and we want to get it down to 3 days. Back in the old days, you could get it the same day if you asked for it to be expedited. Now everybody asks for it to be expedited, so we're unable to do it in 1 day, but we're proud of the fact that we have continued to reduce drilling permit turnaround times. This is not a typo. It is remarkable what has happened with Texas crude oil production. For many, many years after the 1980s, production was static. It was about 800,000 or 900,000 barrels a day. Now we are estimated to be at about 1.8 million barrels of crude a day. This number is actually already outdated. If you add into that other liquid products, Texas is producing over 2 million barrels a day. This puts Texas in a unique position of being one of those significant producers of crude and liquids, and we think the opportunities for our state are really boundless. It's possible that we could double this number by 2020, we could triple it by 2025, and you could see Texas producing around 4 to 5 million barrels of liquid a day. It is all driven by technology, by what you are doing to help us have a better picture into the below surface geology and changes in engineering and changes in drilling technology, really as a result of George Mitchell's refining, experimenting, and continuing to pursue horizontal drilling and hydraulic fracturing. Natural gas as well is at close to record heights in Texas. Our peak was in 2011 at about 22 BCF a day. This is about a third of all U.S. production. We could actually produce a lot more, but the price point is just not there. Natural gas has been found in abundance in our state, and if you think back into 2007, it looked like we were going to have to start importing natural gas into America. In fact, one company was in the process of building an LNG importing facility. And my, how the world has changed in 5 or 6 years. We now have 3 facilities along the Texas coast that have been permitted for export. The one leading the pack is the Cheniere facility, which is about 90 miles to the east of where we sit today. And that project is likely to come online in the next 2 or 3 years, exporting a significant amount of Texas, Louisiana, and other domestic natural gas to our friends around the world, our customary allies in Asia, Japan, Germany, and other markets where the price of natural gas is significantly higher than it is here in the United States. The Permian Basin is kind of the Energizer bunny of oil plays. We've been producing for 50 or 60 years out of the Permian Basin. And yet, because of new technology, because we're able to find and recover more oil, we see renewed growth in Permian Basin production. Together with the New Mexico side of the Permian Basin, we're producing about 20% of all U.S. crude in that area. And if you've been to Midland lately, I hope you booked a hotel room well in advance, because the vacancy rate there is incredibly low. Finding a room is very difficult to do. The unemployment rate in Midland is the 3rd lowest unemployment rate in America. Numbers 1 and 2 are up in the Bakken. So it's an incredible place to live and work and to build a career. If you can pass a driver's test and pass a drug test, you can make $75,000 to $80,000 driving a truck in West Texas these days. And that is really driving the West Texas economy, and with that, driving the entire economy of the state of Texas. The new kid on the block, the Eagle Ford Shale. This is perhaps one of the hottest shale plays in the world. And yes, this is not a mistake either. 5 years ago, we were at basically 0 production in South Texas. Now we're at 600,000 barrels a day. This number is already outdated. By this time next year, it's been estimated that we could be at 1 million barrels a day by this time next year. This is incredible, and what is happening in the Eagle Ford area is nothing short of an economic miracle. Recently, the University of Texas at San Antonio estimated that the economic development from the Eagle Ford Shale in an area from Laredo to San Antonio to Corpus is approaching $25 billion. There are approximately 30,000 new net jobs in the Eagle Ford Shale, and the robust economic activity is translating throughout that market, from McDonald's to truck drivers to everyone who is employed. If you are looking for a job, go to South Texas. You can get a job in South Texas, and I think what this demonstrates is the opportunity for economic employment throughout America. If we were to take these techniques, both exploration and production, and expand them to other states, whether it's in the Midwest, Western New York, California, other areas where we know there is exploration and production activity, we could have an economy throughout America that looks something like the economy that we have in Texas. And it's not unique to our state. You could do this in any part of the world. The Barnett Shale up in the Fort Worth area really was the grandfather, the grandmother of shale activity, of using horizontal drilling and hydraulic fracturing to find a bounty of natural gas. We're producing a little over 5 BCF a day. From the beginning of the Barnett Shale to the present, we've recovered about 13 TCF, trillion cubic feet of gas. And what is amazing is how much gas is remaining in the Barnett Shale. Recently, the Sloan Foundation, in conjunction with University of Texas, did a study, and they believe, depending upon the price point, that there's anywhere between 44 and 80 trillion cubic feet, TCF, of natural gas remaining to be recovered in the Barnett Shale. It really just is a function of the price being high enough to incent drilling activity. But if we were to see prices tick up into the 450 or 550 range, I'm confident that we see rigs begin to move back into the Barnett Shale. You know, in Texas, we like to brag a lot, but the old saying goes, if it's true, it's not bragging. We now find ourselves in an interesting position. We're among the world's leading petroleum producers. If Texas were once again an independent nation, for those of you not from here, we did this once before for 9 years, we would be the second biggest contributor to the other 47, the lower states, not Alaska and Hawaii, and our numbers continue to go up. U.S. production, coupled with Canadian production, is now the biggest single production block in the world. And as you go back to your respective states or your respective countries, you begin to think about what this means for international trade, for foreign policy, for international security, for domestic U.S. foreign policy and energy policy. We have come a long way in a short period of time, and where we go from here is almost too difficult to predict, because we're probably going to be on the low side of our production estimates. From an economic development perspective, there are approximately 380,000 people directly employed in the industry. If you take indirect jobs and add those in, the number is well in excess of 500,000 Texans. About 39% of all oil and gas jobs are located here in the Lone Star State. The average salary is well in excess of $100,000. To compare that, the average non-oil and gas pipeline and mining job pays about $44,000. So it's clear that we want more of these high-paying jobs and fewer of the others. The total contribution to our economy is in the $300 billion range, and the payroll is somewhere in the neighborhood of about $500 billion. It is an extraordinary business that shows no signs of abating. And again, with the advances in technology, whether they're subsurface, production, pipeline, and delivery, really there is no reason why this can't continue to go forward. We are challenged, and our industry is challenged from time to time with allegations that fracking contaminates fresh water. I've been involved in a couple of these where the EPA alleged here in Texas in Parker County that fracking contaminated groundwater. After an investigation, the EPA vacated that order and stopped their pursuit of the investigation. The same thing was repeated in Dimmock, PA, and Pavilion, Wyoming. At the Railroad Commission, we are not resting on our laurels. We're always interested in putting in place best practices, and I want to share 4 initiatives that we've had, which we think will be repeated around the country, if not around the world. Our first initiative was in early 2012, late 2011, when we went forward with the first frac fluid disclosure rulemaking in America. Before that, Texas producers were, many of them, voluntarily disclosing the material that they were using downhole to fracfocus.org. Now it is required of any operator in Texas to disclose this information on fracfocus.org. Our second rulemaking encourages recycling of flowback fluid. We don't mandate it, but we put in place a number of initiatives, including eliminating some permits, so that if you are interested, if you are so desiring to recycle flowback water, you can do so. And we hope to see people beginning to use water substitutes, brackish water, non-potable water, and recycling water. Our third and perhaps most significant rulemaking, which we completed earlier this year, is a well integrity rulemaking. We had not revisited our well integrity rules for quite some time, and now we have a uniform requirement on how much cement is needed downhole, which areas require cementing, a little more cement between the base of usable quality water, cement through potentially corrosive zones, and more cement above the production area. These best practices are designed to stay on the leading edge of the curve and to make sure this incredible development continues to go forward. Our fourth rulemaking, which we've just begun, will address disposal wells, particularly saltwater disposal wells. We want to make sure that as we achieve greater and greater fracking, that we see a way to dispose of flowback fluid, and to do so in a way that is environmentally sensitive so that we ensure that the plume never finds its way into a place where it's not supposed to be. I want to conclude with thanking you all for everything that you do, for the work that you're engaged in. Technology is an amazing thing. 30 years ago, we experienced a boom here in Texas, followed by a bust. And everyone sort of thought that we were running out of petroleum here in America, and it's shortly after that that we were running out of natural gas. But what we find repeated over and over is that human ingenuity always finds a solution to a problem. And this has been displayed most acutely here in our state, where we had high gas prices only 5 or 6 years ago, and now we have extremely low natural gas prices. There was the theory that we had reached peak oil and that we were running out of it. Nobody talks about that, and then not too recently, the peak oil website actually closed down. We never know where human ingenuity, know-how, experimentation will lead us. I'm thankful for what you do. I'm thankful for the work that you're engaged in. The future is incredibly bright for this industry. We continue to drive our economy by it, both Texas and U.S., and it will continue to drive the global economy going forward. You can follow me on Twitter, @SmithermanTX. Like me on Facebook. We want to have a communication. We want to have a dialogue with you. Enjoy the rest of your stay here in Houston. You've got beautiful weather. It's like this every day of the year, so come back again soon. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much for coming. Thanks everyone for coming, and enjoy the convention.